Some podcast programs pop the cork to begin things, but as you know, if you're a regular listener to Mortgages and BS with yours truly, BT, and the esteemed Tom Smith, we do a little bit different spin on the cork popping. Go, Tommy. Sweet, sweet.
Lictor. The elixir of God.
Sweet, sweet capping of the brewski.
Well, in Wisconsin, lacrosse, you'd call it the tapping of the golden keg.
The golden keg. The golden keg.
But we're not in lacrosse.
And he even said it. Did you hear the way he said it? Jason Tetrick, he's here from United Credit Consultants. Good to have you here, man.
I appreciate it. Thanks for
He said the
having me.
golden keg. The golden keg.
Hey, don't pick on me because
No, I like that kind of, I like sort of accents and languages.
I know, but you know
I loved it.
You know how I am about lacrosse and Oktoberfest and stuff.
I
We
love
talked about,
lacrosse too.
but I don't know if you saw this. Since I don't live in lacrosse, my goal of being fest master of Oktoberfest cannot ever happen. But luckily, through one of my good friends by the name of Tim Moore, I found out that I could be a grenadier.
Oh, that's great.
And what the grenadier is, he's part of the royal family there.
Yep.
So Monday, I will be in lacrosse interviewing to be a grenadier.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
So I'm pretty friggin' excited.
That sounds cool.
Very exciting.
Yeah, I'll tell you the best part of being a grenadier is
You get free beer tickets.
guy. Not only that, you get to drink more. I think you get to drink more beer. There's a lot of official duties that go on with that grand poobah role. But when you're sort of the lesser poobahs, you're kind of fine. Hey, grenadier, would you go get me another beer? Yes,
Okay.
I will. And then you do, and then you have to have one on the way and have one on the way back. And then, of course, there's a little conversation while you're fetching the beer, and then
then somebody buys you a beer.
and then they buy you one. So, no, I think this grenadier duty is going to work out real well for you.
And the thing,
if you make it in.
No, and the thing is, it's kind of cool because, I'm German heritage. My wife's German heritage.
Yep.
So Oktoberfest to me is a big deal. My mom was German. We all talked about that. So I lived in Germany. So to me, it's a big part of my roots. So to be involved with it is kind of cool. In all honesty, I get to wear some lederhosens again.
Yeah.
But I get to celebrate my heritage. That's really what it's to me about, is celebrating my heritage. And also because I'm from the lacrosse area, basically, I get to celebrate my heritage in that area where it is a big deal.
Yeah, it
and
is.
so to me, that's really the biggest thing about it. But the beer does come into play.
Of course it does. So I think I'm liking this. We're going to have more on this narrative as we get into shows in the future.
12 parades I got to walk in.
Did he make it into the Grenadier Corps or not?
We'll know here pretty soon.
I'm loving that. Well, and you got a little more free time. So do I. Not so much free time because we're still busy guys, but both of us no longer with our current employers. It just means more time for mortgages and BS. That's what it means.
Absolutely.
Hey, this unemployed thing's pretty good. I'm going to have 2 beers today.
Nice. During the course of this show. Well, we better get all the important stuff in up front. Jason, good to have you, as I mentioned a second ago.
Thank you.
Jason's here from United Credit Consultants, and the overall theme of our show here today is, poor credit, it can be repaired.
Absolutely.
And so we'll dive into that with you in a bit, but the show, although it's called Mortgages and BS, is kind of front-loaded with a little more of the BS. And so that's why we, glad to introduce you right on the front end to make sure that already in the short time we've known each other, I can see in your eyes, I can see in your demeanor that when it comes to the BS, JT, you've got it going in.
He's already on his, he's already on his second beer, too.
He's in here already. He's in like Flynn. I want to throw a little bit of this BS out to you because deer hunting season's right around the corner, and I know you're a hunter. So off you go to northern Minnesota. You got some land up there. Who do you hunt with when you're up there? Dad and brothers and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah?
Uncles, cousins.
Love
Absolutely.
it. Love
Enjoy it every year.
I'm putting in my jerky order now.
There you go.
Or
We'll
my
get it.
medicine sticks. There we go.
What's deer camp like for you guys? Is it the motel thing? Let's go out to the land, or is it more setting up the the trailers and tents on the land? What kind of thing do you guys like to spend?
Well, fortunately now, my cousin actually purchased a house, and he lives by himself, so we're able to stay with him through the duration. So, yep, absolutely. It's a great time.
Bunks, cots, or what's the kind of deal there?
Floor, couch. Whatever's easy.
Wherever you fall down.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly.
Bring the inflatable mattress, that sort of thing.
Yep.
Inflatable what?
Don't forget the cribbage board.
Nope.
You got to have all the accoutrement to make it happen. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Now, would there be beer involved when you hunt?
There is.
Okay.
Yep.
You'll notice our show comes back to beer a lot.
Yeah. Hey.
Exactly.
Can't go wrong with beer. Can't go wrong with beer. No, it's always after the hunt. There's a few beers.
Of course.
Just talk, and we haven't seen each other for a while, so it's nice to
That's
just
the part I always
reminisce
liked about it too, is the
absolutely.
catching up with old pals or
absolutely.
rallies
Exactly.
or whatever.
It's a bonding deal, especially
It
when
is.
you're talking family and stuff like that. We were talking before the show. I never got into hunting. I fish and stuff like that, but I've got a lot of friends that hunt, and they really enjoy it. And I'm not sure if the part they enjoy the most is the hunting or the after the hunt, whether they got a deer or not, and they're sitting around the bar playing cribbage, whatever it might be, playing, drinking beer.
Yep.
And then it doesn't matter if it's deer, turkey, pheasant, or whatever.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It is that bonding thing that's really great.
It is. Yeah, like you said. I mean, even if you didn't, harvest anything per se, but you're still enjoying. There's still stories that would happen in the past that you still talk about, to this day. And it's fun. Just talk about, oh, did you remember that drive that we had those $4 and we're able to take 2 out of our party. It's just those things that never fail. They never disappear. So it's
now. Do you ever have
fun.
a story where somebody actually fell asleep in the tree stand?
Yes.
Because that's my story too. Yeah, and and I don't know why I don't know why I felt I needed to say, oh no, I didn't fall asleep. I slipped on the ice. I was like 15 when it happened. So I'm you're a teenager. You don't want to tell the truth. I toughed it out. I was awake. No, I fell completely asleep. But I remember waking up rolling over in the air, and literally boom flat on my back, and my rifle, the barrel of the rifle is stuck in the ground like it's a fence post. So I had.
You're lucky you didn't land on the barrel.
Exactly.
I know there were so many parts of this narrative where obviously I could have fallen halfway through the spin. Suddenly, paralyzed Brian is out hunting again from his chair. I probably would have been out the next year, or maybe not. Could have killed me. It took me many years of making my way into adulthood to finally say to my brother. My dad had passed by then, but it's like. My brother Terry, so you really fell asleep there, didn't you? And it's like, yeah, of course I did. Well, and I was a teenager. I just felt I just.
Well, you get up really early too, so it's not like
when you're playing cards up until 2 a.m.
Absolutely,
and having
guys,
fun.
Deer are awake during the day. Why do you have to go in the morning? They're awake during the day. You can shoot them during the day.
That's when they're moving around.
My favorite time is about 7:30 at night when they're walking across 42. Did I say that?
He's hunting with his old pickup truck at that point.
Let me tell you where I live in Apple Valley. We were talking about this, and I back up to Lebanon Park, Camp Sacagawea. And I look out my backyard, and all I see are woods. I see coyotes. I see fox. I see deer. I see eagles. I've watched the coyote track the deer.
Yeah.
I've watched the whole thing. I could sit in my backyard, basically, and get anything I want. It might not be legal, but I could basically get anything I want.
If you wanted to, yeah.
Heck, I got wild turkey back there, everything.
It would most likely not be legal, but that's...
although
that's
they do...
right
now, I think it's now... You can get a deer tag to go do bow hunting back behind my house.
Oh, because they want to call the herd.
They still want to keep. They're trying to keep the population.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I didn't tell you guys this. I have got one deer in my life.
Really?
With a car?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
when they were building my house, I nailed a 14-point buck.
Wow.
Doing about
Trophy buck.
Doing about 4 miles an hour, on my way to see Frank Pillsbury of all people.
Right. I know Frank.
And I was like, what do I do? So I call my buddy. He goes, I'll call the cops. He goes and he gets the deer. He takes it up in the new cul-de-sac we're going to move it to. Cleans it, everything. I've got the rack.
There you go.
I said, I'm never going to get a deer in my life. This thing's got a trophy rack. I want it.
Yeah, and that venison was pretty good, I bet.
It was.
You're darn right.
My dad's a well-known taxidermist in Lakeville, so if you want that thing
was that right?
absolutely.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
He's been doing that for years, huh?
Yep.
Yeah, neat. That's
a lot of reproductions, a lot of big name.
Starting to like this guy here.
Yeah.
Well, I told you, I could see it in his eyes when it came to the BS. Tetrick was already in.
Yeah.
JT's in. Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
I like that you guys. I got a friend who's a deer processor.
Okay.
And he's good meat guy up in that area where you guys hunt. But I do like because I have other friends that are chefs and that are cooks. They're processing that deer themselves. And that's a fun part of it for them too. I'm an omnivore, so I get that. I eat meat, and you've got to take care of that animal respectfully,
of course,
and bring it back into your life, and that's what it's all about. And and they do it stem to stern. They're processing everything on that animal, which I also appreciate. That nothing goes to waste, and that's pretty cool.
That's a lot of work too. It's got to be if you're doing it yourself. I mean, because the equipment involved.
Yeah, but it's fun.
It's
It's fun. It's hobby type work. It's enjoyable work. And again, I think it shows that considerable amount of respect to that beautiful creature, who is a part of nature, and now it's going to continue to be a part of nature in my belly.
Yep, exactly.
In my belly, and I do like my venison.
Yeah, again, you get the guys, over in the garage, and you're having a couple beers, listening to music, BSing
Yeah.
and and just doing your thing with with the deer there.
And I get
processing
and I'm totally respectful of those that don't like hunting or appreciate it, and all of that, and I'm fine with that. And as long as they're fine with the fact that the way that you do it, and I know your guys do it, and I do, and others, that it's respectful of the animal,
ethical, absolutely,
respectful of nature. That you're not going to take a crappy shot that injures the animal and harms the animal. That you're going to do your best to get that clean shot that respects that animal's life.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, absolutely. You have to.
Got that right. Sad passing happened this last week. Let's segue right to with our dear Flip Saunders, because what a great guy. God, I'm just I'm beside myself. For his wife and family. I cancer survivor myself.
Yep.
I know how that it can just escalate quickly. It never did for me. Well, there were some times where it escalated quickly, and I had my ups and downs during the year adventure I had. But I totally understood what happened when we were hearing stories that Flip was on the mend and this and that, and then it can take a quick turn. It really can.
It was really weird too, because you heard about it when it first happened, and I've known Flip for a while. I mean, I actually met Flip first time back in the late '80s. Mid-late 80s, when he was coach of the Cappers down La Crosse, of all places.
Yeah, right on. When he was doing that
and then I got to meet him again later in the 2000s when I knew some people at the Wolves, and I got a chance to meet him. And what a nice guy.
Yep.
And the biggest thing that I saw, as this happened, first of all, I think it was unexpected until I saw that article right the day before where we don't think Flip will be back this season.
Yeah.
That concerned me because we hadn't heard anything. And then, of course, the passing. And everything I read and everything I heard was not about him necessarily as a coach, but about him as a person, because he really was one of those guys that when you met him, he impacted you. He had a positive impact on you in some way, shape, or form, because he was just that kind of a person.
Yeah.
And he touched a lot of people. And when you read the things that the players are saying and other people that know him, I mean, you get a sense of knowing him on top of that, even if you never did. And I think, Brian, you got a chance to meet him a couple times too.
Oh, sure.
But it's like, I wasn't best friends with him, but I knew him. I was emotionally, I teared. I mean, I did. I cried over it. I mean, because I've had drinks with the man. I know the guy, and if I would have been any closer to him, I can only imagine how some of these people are being. I mean, I can only imagine. But for the team, Garnett, and what they do last night, they went out and they won.
Absolutely.
They won that season.
This season is going to be totally dedicated to Flip Saunders, and if it had to be dedicated to anybody, I can't think of a better person. And I don't say coach, I say person, because he really was a good person.
And I'm glad you brought that up, Tom, because I avoided all the articles that were sort of the outline of Flip's career, because I'd followed it since his time at the U of M. I mean, that's when I was a teenager, growing up in Robbinsdale, basketball fan, and his time there, and then, he's a senior, McHale's a freshman, and all that kind of stuff. And then growing up in Robbinsdale, when he took over the Golden Valley College program, that's just down the road from where I grew up. And he was doing this remarkable job there. And you'd read about it not so much in the Star and Tribune. They were two different papers then. But, more about in the Post or the Sun newspaper, about not only just the remarkable scores that would happen. He'd have some 120 to 44 final scores, with his teams. But that he would bring these players in that he knew from the U of M to be a part of what he was doing at Golden Valley. And they were happy to be beside Flip and, give their guidance to these younger, players. And then off he goes, into his career in the CBA stuff, like you said, in La Crosse. And so I followed his career. But, it was all of the stuff about, like you said, and I'm just going to leave that thought there from my perspective. It was all the Flip as a person stuff that I wanted to read and that I wanted to absorb.
And he was a true mentor. I mean, when you read the stuff, I mean, the players themselves say, all the stuff about basketball, but say what he did for me as a person, or as a kid coming out of high school, or a kid coming out of college, and how he mentored me and he really coached me. We're talking like personal coaching, not coaching for the game, but helping these people develop as individuals. And you know what? When you talk about sports, you don't think about things like that. You just don't. But that's the way he was. I mean, that's the way he was with everybody. And like I said, I know a lot of people that know him really well, and they've taken it very, very hard. And I don't think the community is going to rebound from it as a directness for a while. But as time goes on, obviously they will. But the team definitely is going to rebound during the course of the season and remember them all year.
You know, you bring up a good point about that mentorship, and as it relates to professional sports, all different kinds of major league sports, there's a lot of players in there. Or certainly a percentage of them, you know, that come from less than admirable home circumstances, community circumstances, family circumstances, school circumstances, all of that. And so they do need some measure of guidance and mentorship. And it's the Torrey Hunters who came from nothing, from his little town in Arkansas, and it's Flip Saunders who, you know, provided that, and Torrey provided that kind of mentorship, and a Flip provided that kind of mentorship to young men and those that he played with and played alongside and coached on that personal mentorship level that, you know, changed, in many cases, literally changed their lives.
And you hear that no matter what town he was at, what team he dealt with, or what player, you've heard it over and over and over. And, you know, we can all only hope that when it's our time to have 25% of that coming back to us that he got. Because there's not a person that I know that could say a negative thing about the man.
Yeah, not a one. Rest in peace, Philip Saunders. Philip Saunders, rest in peace. This may be an odd segue because the spirit of Flip will certainly live on in the hearts and minds of tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. So it'll seem to be an odd segue. But Tom wanted me to share this story on the show today because we didn't get to it last week. You ever live or have you ever had a ghostly encounter, Jason Tetrick?
On a trail camera. Believe it or not, we did. We
All
did
right.
have a ghost.
Tell us that story real quick.
It was actually a friend had his trail camera up. There was a little buck on there, and then you saw this little figure in the background right behind the buck. And it was two different pictures, so it wasn't the same. So the first picture, it was, you know, back by the tree line. And then the second picture, it was more, you know, a lot closer to the actual deer itself.
Wow.
So it moved at least 20 yards.
Yeah.
And so it
nice.
It's a
Was
little
that,
eerie.
Was that archived? Was that footage saved?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because you got to hold on to that.
Oh, yeah.
kind of
Because
stuff.
people don't
Yeah.
believe you. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
you know, you're BSing. You know, it's.
Well, when you get it on a camera, that's really cool. I mean, because we were talking last week, and this is why we're bringing this up, is my brother-in-law and his wife had some weird things going on in their first house that they had, and the ghost moved with them to the new house.
Oh, wow.
We're talking lights going on and off without anybody touching lights. We're talking vases moving, the whole thing. And we were talking about, and then BT shared the story with me, and I'll just let him tell it because it's creepy.
Well, I lived with a ghost for 4 years. My roommates and I. I'm going to make this a brief story because we want to make sure we get to the Fed and other things that are going on in the mortgage and the credit world, which is why Jason Tetrick from United Credit Consultants is with us. In addition to his already outstanding BS capabilities.
Yeah,
So
like
we
there
had-
was a ghost there, right?
We had this house in Robbinsdale. You know, 4 guys living there. One of our pals, Greg, never really had anything happen to him, but I had more than several occurrences happen to me. I mean, wow. I mean, that's an understatement. More than several. But I had the first one in the house. I had a lighted globe. I was watching TV. There was a couple of monitors on this TV stand that we had. The top one I'm watching TV. The bottom one, nothing's on there, but I'm seeing the reflection of this lighted globe behind me. You've got a bulb inside the globe. You turn it on, it lights up. You know, kind of a cool little thing. And I'm laying on the couch, and the globe's behind me. I mean, like a foot or so to my right and behind me. And I see a hand pass in front of the globe. A hand pass in front of the globe. And I get the chills and the thing.
course.
And I say out loud, I saw that. I said these words in that little TV room. I saw that. I saw that. I just wanted to make sure that entity, whatever it was, heard me. And it's the first time I'd ever had a direct experience like that. So those were the first words, weird, that came out of my mouth. I saw that. I'm talking to the ghost now at this time.
Did you offer him a beer?
I did not offer him a beer. Maybe that might have changed things a little bit. So here's the quick litany of things. You know, doors swinging back and forth, toilets flushing when you're the only person in the house. You know, on the other side of the house, sort of thing. Things getting moved around. You know, all that sort of ghostly stuff that you hear about. We had those sort of prankster things happen a lot. And so one of those roommates, Felix, my direct roommate in the house, Felix. He now, years later, he's a salesperson at a music store in Bloomington. Guy comes in to buy a piece of gear. He's signing off on the little bit of a warranty that you get on these deals. And Felix looks at the address, and it's the house we lived in Robbinsdale. And so he asked the guy, I hope you don't mind my asking, but have you ever had any pauses a little bit, strange occurrences happen? And the guy looks him in the eye and goes, oh, I think I know what you're talking about. And so they start talking about it, and yes, he and his wife bought this house 3 years ago from the guy whom actually we rented from.
Wait for the creepy part.
All these years back, whom we rented from all these years back. And so this landlord finally let go of the house and sold it. And so he and his wife owned it. And this basement in this house had a well room tucked in the back, like a lot of houses back. It was an older house, 1920 something, 19 something. And the well was no longer in service, but there was always, even when we lived there, sort of a smoky, misty presence. I mean, it's why would there be smoke or this mist coming out of this well room? And there was a little sort of trap door thing, so you could get in there if you needed to. Yeah, and it was always a little creepy back there, and you'd be having a few beers, and hey, you want to go down and see the weird well room? And you'd be like, because it was always this kind of weird, smoky, misty
but
thing.
BT, you guys never went in the well room, did you?
Oh, no. There was never a need to go in there.
That's why this is going to get really good.
Never a need to go in there. Didn't choose to go in there because you'd get the hair standing on the end as soon as you were down there. It's like, let's get out of here now. Okay, you saw the creepy well room. Let's get out of here. So the guy and his wife buy the house. Of course, they're going to clean it out from top to bottom. So they make their way into the well room to see if there's any bad stuff or this or anything. And clean
they
up.
weren't afraid of no ghosts.
They were, they'd already had some things happen. And so they go in there, and they find, apparently leaning up against a wall, covered with soot and dirt or whatever, just dust. So you couldn't see it the time we lived there. It just blended in. They found a tombstone.
No, hold on. Now remember, you said you heard him. They never went in the well room.
Oh. So we never went in there. If we went in there with a flashlight, we would have found it when we lived there. But nobody wanted to go in that goddamn well room.
So what do you think we want to know now?
And so we still haven't found out, So this guy had to leave the store after making this purchase from Felix, and that's kind of the cliffhanger that he left Felix with. And so now I'm bugging Felix.
Is the mist gone?
So now, we gotta find out. I have to find out, and Tom now needs to find out.
Of course. Yeah.
Now you tell.
No, I'm intrigued. Absolutely, of course.
So we got to find out from this guy. So you took the tombstone out? I would imagine yes. You probably got it the heck out of there. Did you call the county? Then what do you do when you find something like that? And then if it's out of the house now, have there been any occurrences since?
So this is like this is the Robbinsdale horror, kind of like the Amityville horror, where it was built on the Indian grave ground.
Yeah,
I'm saying, exactly. I mean, when he told me this, he goes, and I went, a tombstone.
Yeah,
and then of course next, so the Misco. I don't know.
and I'd like to know if they took a picture, if they cleaned out the tombstone a little bit out of respect, or just to find out, to take a picture of,
who it is.
Who it is.
Who was it? What's the story? I mean, because now you want to know all that. Because that's a movie right there, right?
Yeah, absolutely, it is.
Yeah, because I'll tell you what,
BT, you could be in a movie besides Beer Busters.
I have one more quick layer to add to this story. Okay, one more. In the time that we were living there, this landlord rented out a basement room that was downstairs there, okay? And it had just this little corner, crappy little bathroom, and it was a single studio type space, no fire exit, no fire egress, so it was totally out of code, and he was just pulling in another, $200 a month, and for people. And so when we lived there was a separate entrance to get down the side door. And so this woman lived down there, and she was always just a little off, okay? And then her daughter came in and moved in with her, and she was a little off. Now, that can happen in families. I'm not going to say that. The room caused that, but, okay, they're a little off. And one day, this daughter, who is now just staying with her mother, apparently temporarily, came upstairs, knocked on the door that was sort of the entrance to our space then, and our roommate Mark was there, and he kind of opened it. Yeah, can I? Nobody knocking on that door ever, and it was the girl. Do you have a knife I can borrow? And yeah, sure. So he got her. She needed to cut something in the little kitchen, little studio kitchen down there. No, that's not what happened. She took the knife and cut her wrists open. And then
what?
And then hold on. And then when that didn't succeed, she left the house and went down to the bridge on 42nd Avenue North, aka Rockford Road, that went over Highway 100, and jumped off the bridge. And she didn't land in traffic or on the asphalt. She landed in the grass median, so she didn't die. But this is what happened, with her. And so then she's no longer there. She's in the hospital and all this. And then mom moves out. And then another guy moves in there who had an alcohol problem. But eventually his alcoholism escalated in exponential fashion, not just in arithmetic, exponential fashion. And he stumbled and fell one night and cut his hand open to the point of needing, I think, 30-some stitches. I mean, it's one of these sort of things. So then he's eventually out. And then the authorities, because the police had to come to get him.
Multiple incidences, yeah.
Well, the incident, with the girl was on the bridge. But when the paramedics came and had to help the guy that was living downstairs that gashed himself, they noticed, and the cops are showing up there too, hey, wait a minute, there's no egress here. Oh. They noticed it. And so from that point on, the old landlord could never rent that place out again, because now it was on the official rolls that, this is not cool, no egress, no nothing, fire, you're going to die. So, but those are a couple of extra layers that now I've got you just looking at me.
I just want to know, when they were in the basement, did they make Tombstone pizza? I mean, you didn't share this part with me, and I didn't listen to Shannon's show. I'm just like, wow.
I just kind of remembered that part of it now. So yeah, there were so many Tom.
I mean, you see me like
There's so many layers of this ghost parfait that I'd really forgotten about that, or just we ran out of time last week. That's another layer to it.
I mean, I can remember eerie things in the one house where my parents had like the old coal rooms and stuff like that, where you'd be in there and you'd hear something or you'd feel something, but it never made sense. But not to this type of point where you're seeing mists and things like that. I mean, it was always that weird feeling.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay.
Well, okay.
It is a scene like out of a horror
it
movie.
Is.
Oh yeah, really I'm picturing a movie right now. I really am. Yeah. That's all we need to find out the story now. If the mist is still there, because there's probably a movie there.
The backside of the Tombstone story needs to be found out, and so I'm going to bug Felix about this. Or I'm not bashful, as you guys both probably can tell. I'm going to go knock on the house door,
check it out yourself,
of the Welcome House in Robbinsdale, and just ask the guy. Okay, my buddy Felix told me this. Hey, my name's Brian Turner. I lived here with Felix. What was the deal with the other side of the Tombstone story? Just tell me what's going on with that, and because I'd love to, and maybe get a little tour of the house, because I guess they redid it and turned it into a single-family house again. I'd like to see that too. So if he's willing to show me, I'd love that.
I don't know what's creepier: the mist, the tombstone, or the people trying to kill themselves.
I know the thing in the basement. I know that's a layer, like I said, that I forgot to share. So
I mean, was it? Obviously, it was an unrestful spirit, and it was doing things to try to get attention.
Well, they were on the opposite end of that well room, but still, that was that basement area there. And it was,
dude, I would have been out of that house in a week.
I know you said that before, yeah.
Especially when I would have seen the mist.
It would, it
would have been a little eerie.
It was a pretty benevolent, spirit that that we lived with. Actually, and so there really was nothing, too weird about it.
Actually, the guys I lived with in college, if we would have had a situation like that, we would have gone in that well room. Yeah. I know we would have had a few Heileman's Old Style beers, and we would have gone in that thing. And then when I would have seen that tombstone, I would have run.
I'm out of here.
And they would have been standing there while I was running the door.
Yeah, you'd been like the Road Runner. Where the Road Runner does that thing where he just kind of jitters for a bit and raises the dust, and then...
I've been like the coyote getting hit with the anvil.
Yeah.
All right.
So there's that, and that's a little bit of...
That's our Halloween story, then.
Yep, there's our Halloween story, the backside of the Tombstone story yet to be unfolded. So this has been a part of the narrative on the show, this idea of poor credit, bad credit... geez, a lot of people, and Tom sees this all the time, and I'm sure you do too. A lot of people make this assumption that my credit's at this thing right now, I'm never going to be able to get into a house, or I'm never going to be able to do that. And that's what you guys at UCC do, that United Credit Consultants do. Yep. And that's I'm sure I'm repeating a narrative that you see time and time again every day. This is probably a big part of your job every day.
Absolutely. And people are just, I think more of the misconception is just, where do I start? Where do I go from this point when I just got denied a home loan or auto loan, wherever the case is? Where do I go at this point?
Yeah, I don't know I don't know what to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's...
And Jason and I were talking at the beginning of the show. I mean, one of the biggest things we say to buyers out there is, go get pre-approved, right? So we have people coming in to get their credit checked out. And there's things that we as lenders, especially when you're an old dog like me, we know they need to do when we see issues, and we know how to look at. But there's things we can't fix. We don't know how to fix. And that's where companies like UCC come into play, because they can do things. They're licensed to do certain things that we can't do to help these people figure out how to get the credit fixed, potentially take things off their credit.
Yeah,
absolutely.
The whole negotiate pay downs, the whole thing. So.
Yeah, having a second license in debt settlement, with the state as well, which we're the only even in the Midwest that I'm even aware of that have that second license. even the few in the country that carry that second license. So any type of judgment collection, charge-off, tax liens, standalone second mortgages, student loans, but those are more of a rehabilitation loans.
Yep.
So a little different there because obviously it's federal money. You're not going to be able to settle that. That's something that's going to have to be paid back no matter what. But those are things that aren't really affecting your actual score, but they're affecting the lendability.
Yeah, there you go.
So it's not affecting the score. The late payments and things that are associated with those accounts that are, in the bankruptcy or whatever the case is, those will hurt your score, but the bankruptcy, the word itself, doesn't per se hurt your score. It's just more the lendability. There's time frames.
That's a big thing, that whole debt settlement thing. Because
absolutely.
That's actually a ginormous service that
yes.
a lot of other credit consultants or those that do this sort of thing you actually can go in and start negotiating from
absolutely.
that.
And that is a big deal because there's a lot of people that'll say, "Hey, we can do this, we can do that," but they really can't.
Yeah,
you got.
they could give you advice or do something.
You've got to be like, like I can sit and we have simulators. We can go through and say, "Hey, if you do this or do that, it works out." These guys not only can just go in and say, "Here's a simulator, let's figure this out." We can go in and say, "Hey, you owe XYZ company this much money. We can probably get them to settle for less." What happens is many times the buyer can do some of this stuff themselves.
Absolutely.
But the problem is they don't know how to do it. They're afraid to do it. They're intimidated. It takes time.
Well, and then
like
suddenly
that.
Attorneys are representing the credit company, and so now you're dealing with an attorney, this sort of thing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just like anything else. You can build a deck by yourself. You can represent yourself in court if you wanted to. But again, you hire a professional to do these things. So that's what you take, you take us on. You hire us as a professional company to work with you on not only repairing your credit, but obviously rebuilding your credit.
Yeah.
Repairing, if you repaired everything and got everything removed off your credit report, that's great. But the rebuilding aspect is the biggest thing that we provide in the educational loan. Everything's based on the FICO algorithm. So understanding what trade lines need to be open and how to utilize those trade lines, which is going to manipulate the FICO algorithm in your favor. So, those are things that I can go over
So
here.
it's even in the midst of this problem or series of problems and
Absolutely.
situations, it's finding pathways where you can gain some
Exactly.
credit, whether it's a gas card, whether it's a small credit account at a department store. Who knows what it might
Absolutely.
be?
Yep.
Any number of things.
Well, and
Absolutely.
the weird thing is sometimes, you don't know what's going to be on your credit report. There are things that you may never thought would pop up, and all of a sudden somebody hasn't had their credit run. They've gotten a couple credit cards, they've gotten a car loan, you pull their credit, and there's something there, and they're going, "Wow, that's from college. Why is that on?"
Yeah, and it stays there unless you can get it nixed out, but you got to know the pathway to get it out of
Exactly.
there. Yeah.
Investigation process is one of the very important aspects of our company. You're going to be applying for some type of credit. So we want, when a underwriter or somebody, a financing agency looks at your report, we want everything to be accurate and verifiable as of today.
Yeah.
Again, anything can be put on your report. Has Equifax, Experian, TransUnion ever called you guys and just say, "Hey, Brian or Tom, is this information correct? Is this account on here?"
Never once, of
Not
course
once. So
not. Yeah.
as a consumer, you have a right to go and dispute anything and challenge anything that's on your credit report. So that's the reason why the investigation is, very important.
Oh,
Going through
hugely
that
important, because
process.
then that creditor has to come back and say yes or no, and then they have to respond within a certain amount of time.
Exactly.
And then if you filed this grievance, so to speak, and they don't respond even simply in a time frame,
Yep.
it's
removed.
Leave. It has to
and,
leave.
and can enhance your credit score.
Yeah.
Could be a collection, with on a credit card. Those late payments, those very detrimental to your profile. So getting that item removed could potentially put your score up quite a bit. So
I know, in my industry, obviously, we have situations where we get a buyer where we just can't do anything and we need to appoint them to somebody like you guys. But outside of that, when do you typically see somebody come to you guys for help? Is it just somebody knows they've got some crappy credit and they need some help? Or what type of situations where they come?
No, great question, Tom. It's our target, our demographic that we look for, is somebody that has a goal of loan obtainment. Because we know that somebody that comes to us, typically they don't wake up and say, "I just want to fix my credit." There's a reason why they're waking up and wanting to fix their credit. They want to buy a house, or they want to get an auto loan,
or refinance
their house or auto loan. So those are the people that we work with. So it's not it's one of those things that it's come to us. It's a free consultation. We don't know what's currently reported on your credit report until we see it, until it's handed to us. So we either if you get it from Tom, or if you just you have Privacy Guard or some type of online monitoring system, we can go in there and pull a report that way.
Sure.
And just go through your profile, figure out exactly what's hurting you, and then what proactive steps we need to do moving forward to help you rebuild your profile over again.
Now, obviously, somebody that's got a few issues and somebody's got a lot of issues are going to have different timelines. But
Absolutely.
Just sort of to give a median benchmark on a repair and restoration process. Generally, what is that? A 6 to 12 month thing with you guys, or kind of just give me that general timeline, that benchmark.
Your average is about 9 to 12 months.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's going to take about a year. Say about a year.
Yeah. Because a lot of clients that come to us, they have no open trade lines. So going through the repairing of the, obviously of your report, plus starting to open those trade lines and getting those trade lines were to the point where they're starting to have more of an effect on the FICO algorithm.
A positive effect.
Exactly,
yes.
a positive effect.
Yeah.
So it takes time to do that. It's just like losing weight. The first 10, 20 pounds is always the easiest, but being consistent and moving forward like that, staying on your path to credit recovery, that's what's going to maximize scoring potential and put you in a position where you can purchase a house.
Yeah, gotcha. No. How do you guys then go about? You're monetizing this. It's a business. So how do you charge people? How does that happen?
Per situation.
What's the pathway?
Yep, per situation. So again, we offer that free credit assessment because we don't know what your program is in detail until we see it, and so that's what determines the price. So your time frame, your goals, the amount of trade lines that need to be open, and how to manage those trades on education, advising, and consulting with your advisor throughout the program. That's what's going to determine your price.
Now, obviously, though, you've got a situation where folks are falling back on credit lines and falling behind on payments. They've got a situation where they lost a job and the new job they got isn't paying as much. What I'm getting at is they don't have a lot of cash flow.
Yep.
So then, how do you guys structure it? Is there a payment plan that you guys work out so that that consultation and that work and that help can be paid out over time as well?
Absolutely, yeah. So typically, our year contracts, we push those payments out to 12 months. Mm-hmm. So just to give you a scenario.
So that you start the payments after a 12-month period, is that what you're saying? Or
nope.
you start
the first month you'll make your first payment and then you have 11 months to pay it off. So you don't have to come up with the money up front.
Oh, I see. Gotcha.
If you are in a dire need or a stressful situation, we can push those payments out. We're pretty flexible.
Right. Now, and you hear about some of the stuff where people going for credit counseling and all that kind of stuff. When you do that, do you get that creditor to say, okay, we're going to stop charging interest or we're going to stop reporting late as of now because we've set up a payment plan that you guys are going to make the payments on?
No, we don't.
Okay.
The only situation that you even come across that would be a collection. And, making payments on a collection is not a good thing. Again, collection, when you make a payment on a negative count, which is a collection that's been sitting pretty much stagnant for a while because in the collection, process, it takes time. So it's sitting there. The date of last activity hasn't really moved since the day it was charged off and placed in the collection and then obviously sold to a collection agency. So when you update that date of the last activity, which is making a payment, it was updating that date of last activity, that negatively impacts your score. So one lump sum, come up with an agreement, a negotiation, and just pay that one time because it's going to negatively impact your score.
Sure.
So it's understanding that and just knowing that, what are you looking for a goal? What's a time frame? Because if you need some money to be able to settle this collection account,
so it's better to wait until you got the money to settle the collection because it's a one-time thing and it will negatively impact. Than to kind of piecemeal those kind of things. Mm-hmm. So that's a part of the strategy. Though.
Absolutely,
that's a part of coming up with a game plan.
It's a very detailed game plan moving forward. Absolutely. Yeah. So in that case, you don't come across that too often. But
now, when somebody comes to you and do they sign a contract for a certain period of time? Do they just pay you monthly? How does that work?
Yep, it's a monthly payment. Do we have clients that pay in full up front? Yes, we don't really require that, but it happens. Or just why I have my payment, so I'd like to just pay in full. But yeah, it's monthly payments. So like I said, anybody that needs to push it out, the program a little bit, maybe 15-month payment program, that's fine. So you could be looking at $75, $80 a month for services.
Yeah.
So
to get this done,
to
make this happen. Yeah.
It is a small investment, but if you're looking to purchase a house, it's something that you have to do no matter what. Mm-hmm. So,
and the one thing too, Jason knows this. People that have some sort of derogatory credit, sometimes there's been things that have happened in their lives that have just caused it to happen. They had no control over. And then you've got the ones that they were younger. They didn't realize what they were doing. They charged us with credit cards. They didn't realize they had to pay it all the certain way. They didn't quite get it. And now you're just trying to educate them at the same time.
Absolutely.
Make
Yep,
it all
and that's, I
happen.
mean,
Yeah.
education is another big part of what we offer.
I would think that may be
Yeah.
in the subtext of this whole thing.
course.
That may be the biggest part of this storyline
Absolutely.
for you and your and any given client.
Absolutely. We're like your professor. We're your point guard moving forward. So
Yeah.
we're going to teach you the tricks and the trades of FICO and what you need to do. So when you do leave our program, you can do this on your own. I
Yeah.
mean, you know the knowledge. You have the knowledge of FICO and what you need to do and move forward to put yourself in a position where any type of loan opportunity, you're going to be, optimizing your interest rates.
I'm
So-
glad that in the fact that we brought up Flip Saunders earlier in the storyline of our Mortgages and BS show today, you mentioned that you're not only the professor but also the point guard. 'Cause-
Absolutely.
There you go, because he was
I
both
caught
of
that,
those.
yep.
No, I'm glad. Okay, I just thought I'd echo that because Flip is here.
Yeah.
Flip is in the room.
Feel the presence.
And I think part of it too is, from my standpoint, you try to teach as an adult, you try to teach your kids about credit early as far as you can. And I know, in my kids' case, I set them up with credit cards when they turned 18. I went out and I got them set up with like a Capital One card or whatever.
Things
And then
that would be that forward
And then
motion.
we charge a couple $100 on it.
As
then
you
we pay
call
it
them,
off.
trade lines.
Absolutely.
And so, like right now, each one of my kids has 3 credit cards. Their credit scores are all through over 800. Now, have I ever allowed them to actually use the credit cards? No. But we've worked with it because at the point in time when they finally graduate and stuff like that. But I mean, you have to educate because otherwise, you've got this card. Wow, $3,000.
Of course.
Yeah, it's all right there, man.
Hey,
Yeah.
Vegas, baby.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. New
it's free
stereo.
money.
Yeah. It's
So that's
free money.
that's a guaranteed student loan, guaranteed stereo loan.
Yeah, there you go. Absolutely. So,
Yeah, indeed.
But I mean, do you think part of it is too? I mean, people didn't understand what they had, or they weren't educated well enough on it, and they just got away from them. I mean, because you know the situation that they lost their job, they have this, I mean,
Life
I see all that-
events.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, it's across the board. I mean, it varies per clients. We have situations where somebody's going through a divorce. Obviously, the income is not going to be doubled like it was. So,
Yeah.
the divorce decree, that information, it's one person supposed to take care of credit cards. They're upset with the spouse, so they're not going to pay their payments, things like that. Otherwise, you just have people that just racked up credit card debt and then obviously went into collection, and now they have a bunch of collections on their report.
Yeah.
And so it's across the spectrum.
Sure,
It's across the
sure.
board.
I'll tell you that the divorce one's the one I've seen over and over in my career.
I would imagine, yeah.
Oh, you get, and they'll come in, they go, my ex was supposed to do this. They didn't. So first thing we do is, if it all happened before the divorce decree got put together, you got some issues. But once that divorce decree goes into issue, it's a legal document. So if the one spouse is awarded XYZ debts, even though both names are on it, it's their, it's their deal. So it's a matter then of you go back to somebody like you guys and you take the divorce decree and they can help remove that from the one spouse because it isn't their it anymore. That legal document took care of it.
Yep.
But in many cases, they'll pay stuff off and do junk like that too. Refinance mortgages, all that kind of stuff comes into play. But yeah, I see that. I mean, why? I mean, yeah, you had a bad marriage. Why screw the other person over?
Yeah.
I just don't get it. I mean, that's just me. That's just me personally.
I'm with you.
Especially if there's kids involved,
Oh, yeah,
It's just don't
especially
hinder-
then.
yeah, hinder
I
the
don't want to
situation.
pay the child support. I don't want to pay the. You had the kids. They're your kids too.
Yeah.
Why don't you want to pay the child support?
Come on, step up.
Deadbeat.
I got to think, like you said, it's most often when someone wants to get something done that they come to you because nobody wakes up and says, "Oh, I got to get this repaired. I got to do this." And I guess that's life. We're forced into a corner because of something that needs to happen.
Absolutely.
And so you guys have demonstrated success stories time and again, and Tom can attest to this too. I'm sure that after that 9 to 12 month period, you go from a low score to a decent enough score to secure that mortgage, or
Absolutely.
that these goals are satisfied.
Yeah.
Is that a part of the metric as to how you guys measure your success stories?
Absolutely.
Then? Yeah.
I mean, when somebody comes into us, during their consultation, their main goal is to get a house as soon as possible. So we're going to get them to a 640 where they can get into an FHA loan, stop our process. Because it happens all the time where you have a 12-month program. We're not saying it's going to take 12 months to get into the house, but that's going to take 12 months to fully service your file and just educate you and just make sure that we get the trade lines that we have opened, maximizing scoring potential. So getting you from a 580 to 640 could be a quick turnaround, 2, 3, 4 months. Get them back to Tom, get them on the house, stop everything on our side. So when they close, start our process back up. And then we want to get them into a 720, 740 range where they can refi within a year and get into conventional financing, start
Gotcha.
dropping mortgage insurance. Again, it's all about goals and just saving money over time on just interest rates and things like that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know,
So,
I mean, the better credit score, the better the terms that are offered to you on a
course.
credit card, student loan, car loan,
car
whatever it might
loans,
be.
insurance premiums, everything.
Yeah.
It,
You know-
affects everything.
And we talked a while back about on So You Want to Buy a House. We talked about the credit, and this is a good piece that we should have had at that time for it because it is important. I mean, the credit is the one thing on a loan that we as a lender really can't try to manipulate. And I don't say that in a mean way or a negative way.
You
or
just can't
unprofessional
do
way.
it. You legally can't do it.
It's somewhere we can't do something with. I'll be honest. 20 years ago, we could have called up a credit reporting and say, "Hey, I'm having some issues here. I need that one thing just to disappear," and it would happen. It would happen. And then credit scoring came around and all that kind of stuff. And I remember when credit scoring first came out, we're like, "Oh, this really sucks." And true fact is there are people that are still getting mortgages that we don't think should, even that have certain credit scores, and vice versa, that can't get a mortgage.
Yeah.
Because
Even
it just
after the
doesn't-
devastation of the '08 balloon
Absolutely.
burst.
It
Yeah.
doesn't make sense. I mean, our industry just doesn't make sense, period. I mean, let's face it. I mean, it doesn't. But credit is the one thing that really is something that nobody can do anything about except the individual himself.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a risk assessment. That's what banks look at you as. I mean, you could be the greatest person, Mother Teresa in the world, but unfortunately, if your credit isn't where it is, it's a FICO mathematical equation. So that's what they base everything on. So,
And it's algorithmic, so it becomes,
Absolutely.
as we were talking a little while ago, it's not sometimes arithmetic; it's exponential.
Absolutely.
And that it increases dramatically. But on the backside of that, when you get the repair and restoration part done, the same sort of algorithm can work in your favor. That the more you get things done, the more you can decrease the liabilities and the issues and the problems that are affecting you negatively, and by doing so, increase the positive
Absolutely.
exponentially.
Now, Jason, do you think it's a good idea for people to have things like Credit Karma, stuff like that, credit monitoring services? Because let's face it, I mean, I have a very common name. A few years back, I had somebody kept going, "Oh, this is on your credit." It wasn't mine. It was somebody out of Eau Claire, of all things. And I was able to fix it pretty quick and pretty easily because I knew kind of what to do. But people need to know what's going on there. I mean, do you think they should run their credit report once a year? I mean, what do you think?
I say, because when we have a client come in, we recommend opening up a credit monitoring system.
Okay.
So I recommend I have it. I've had it for 5 years, and I always have it because it tells me, even though I apply for the credit and I know I did, but it alerts me. It says somebody, or not somebody, but it says there was, an inquiry on your profile. So I just go in there and make sure that, that wasn't me at that certain place, an auto dealership, whatever the case is. Absolutely. I agree 100%. Make sure that you stay, enrolled into an online monitoring system.
And how often, so you do, is that like a weekly thing for you? Is that a monthly thing? How often do you sort of ping that and say, all right, I'm going to double check this? I mean, habitually for you. You've been doing it for 5 years. What is it for you?
Every 30 days.
Every 30 days?
Yeah,
okay,
absolutely,
got it.
because,
got it.
things
Just a,
change.
just
Of
a
course.
habitual thing to do.
Yeah, because it
that's a
refreshes the
business
report.
cycle.
Yep.
30 days is a business cycle. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, like I've got Credit Karma. Credit Karma usually get a hold of me and say, "Hey, you haven't looked at your deal in a while, or you need to update this, or you need
And
that."
they'll do that for you.
They ping you and they tell you. So a lot of them will actually ping you and say, "Hey, you want to jump in and check it, or you want to update this?" And my kids are starting to try to get used to it a little bit. But what's cool is that, like we talked about inquiry. In the old days, I can remember this. You could walk through any mall, and about every other door, you could apply for a credit card, right?
Yes. Oh, gee.
And this is before credit scoring. You get some Ginsu knives, a free cooler, a free this. And we would tell people when the credit scoring started, you can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
And that's probably the biggest thing is people just applying for credit to get something for free.
Yeah, of
Course,
course.
the big ones. I think that's
Or the
kinda-
percentage off in the departments, clothing
Well,
stores.
but those are
20%
still
off, 10%.
trade lines
Yep.
that you can build
Yes.
on, though.
Yep.
Because I'll give you an example. My son did that at one of the clothing stores the other day,
Yep.
and he doesn't have a whole lot of trade lines going on. He's 23 years old, but still hasn't established a lot of them.
Yep.
Good bank record, all that kind of stuff. But he got 30% off on the clothes. But now that's a trade line, and so now there's going to be a lesson, and he gets the lesson. Paying his bills on time has never been a problem, but now the lesson is there that he needs to.
Well, and the
to
stores
stay
are
on
good. I mean, think about it. How many times you go through a checkout line and go, will that be with a Target credit card? No. Would you like to apply for one? You get 15%
that.
off.
Oh yeah, the
I mean,
incentives are always there.
Yeah. It's like, Macy's, whatever it is. And I stopped. I carry some Visa cards, and I think I might have a Target card, and my wife probably has it somewhere, and I probably should get back. But I don't even keep store cards anymore. I mean, I haven't had a store card for
No, I
a long
haven't had
time.
one. No, nor have I.
But it's funny because it is so easy to get one, and you think to yourself, wow. I'm buying $200 worth of clothes today. I can save 20%.
Not
Oh,
bad. Yeah.
Well, then the idea isn't that it's bad that you got the trade line. The idea now is you take care of that trade line.
Oh, yeah, and
you
manage
make the
it.
payments
Yeah.
on it and manage that because, as you know, with the algorithms, I mean, how many trade lines do you have? How old are they? How old is the oldest? what's the percentage of use, what's the max credit you can have. I mean, all these things are looked at. And when you go into some of these credit scoring modules, you can go in and say, well, to get your score from here to here, you need to pay this credit card from here to here. If you do anything different than that, you may not get the score on the module it's telling you to get to because you deviate because it knows what you need to do.
Yeah.
It's freaking math.
It is. Yep. It's a mathematical equation. So
based on what the reporting agencies
exactly.
need to see, so to speak, to give you the score that they're going to give you.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. But it's knowing what those are
exactly.
and sorting through it. Yeah.
And which is very detailed in their program, in our consultations and just ongoing education. That's Yep, just understanding.
Some guys were sitting around a table drinking beer and came up with it.
Yeah. Out of Eden Prairie. It actually, formed in Eden Prairie here.
That's
so,
pretty cool.
Well, I remember the guy used to have myfico.com. I used to talk to him a lot, and he would explain some of that stuff to me. I knew a couple guys that worked for him. One was actually a fraternity brother of mine. And it is, I mean, when they started the whole FICO score thing, it was intriguing because it's like, what? And they changed the model, about a year ago. Yeah. And so now it's made it, some people that could have got a loan, it made it harder for them. And some of them that was harder for them, it made it easier for them. And
it changes. Yeah, we're at FICO 9 right now, so it changes.
Ninth version is what you're
ninth
saying.
Version.
Yeah,
yep,
sort
exactly.
of the ninth adaptation of what they've been doing. Okay,
Absolutely.
gotcha.
I mean, they're going to change as time moves forward here.
And that's what you guys do on an ongoing educational basis for your side of the business, is being like a tax accountant. Studies new tax laws every year, and finds deductions
Same
that you
with
didn't
Tom,
have,
with
like,
TRID and everything else.
All that kind of stuff there
absolutely.
too. Yeah.
And what's weird is I'll bring this up. I mean, I'll be very obvious. It's been 8 years now. So I had a BK 8 years ago.
Yep.
When shit hit the fan and I lost the business.
And what's a BK?
Bankruptcy.
Oh yeah, gotcha.
And it will show on my credit report for 10 years.
Yes.
Okay. Now, it's not at a point that it affects me to get credit anymore. What's funny is on my karma, it'll come up and say, you have a major derogatory thing.
Of course.
Well, duh.
Yeah.
But it's not affecting me anymore.
Yeah.
But it does.
It still shows up.
It
stays there for a while.
Bankruptcies, foreclosures, tax liens, and there's another
Judgments.
one. Judgments. 10 years out there.
Okay.
Yep. And they sit in your public record. So again, the only things that are affecting, that actually BK is affecting you, they actually late payments and things like that are associated with those specific accounts that are in the bankruptcy.
I had no late payments in the entire time.
Then
That
you're
was
fine
it.
then. Yep.
When I filed bankruptcy, you remember when I lost the business, I had perfect credit, no lates, no nothing. But I had to file bankruptcy because I owned my own mortgage company, and I had to file because I was at a point I just couldn't do it all anymore. So I had no lates, no mortgage lates, nothing. And I've had perfect credit since then. But what's killed me the most on my credit score is time of credit items, because I had credit items on my credit report since '87. Now I've got stuff that's only 4 and 5 years old.
Yep. That's huge. Length of credit history, it doesn't seem like much, but it's 15% of your score. So, that's what I mean. If you come to us and you have no credit, it takes time to build it. Exactly.
To get those trade lines to establish something for you. Yeah.
And sometimes no credit. Sometimes no credit's worse than having bad credit.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe this little trade line account that my son's got going. I mean,
that's good.
It is the start. Yeah.
Yep. It's just understanding what to do and how to is it.
Yep. And paying it off.
Now this is Jackson that was with the bees that one night.
Yes, indeed. My son Cosmo, Jackson Cosmo. Yeah, good on him. Did you want to do a quick? So you want to buy a house in another direction today?
Actually, no. I think this covered things pretty good.
Yeah, I thought so too. This is because this is really valuable stuff, Jason. Really, thanks for being here. This is outstanding content for the show and for our listeners.
I mean, I've really only got two things I want to get on, and the one I'll let you lead into. But the one I want to bring up is, we joked about the unemployment stuff and stuff like that. We actually have a new sponsor starting. Well, I don't know if they really start today, but they'll start as of tomorrow for the show.
Excellent.
My new employer,
beautiful,
Academy Mortgage. They're actually going to be a sponsor of the show, so every week I'll have to talk a little bit about Academy.
That's fine. Let's give them let's give them some props right now. Is it academymortgage.com for them?
Academymortgage.com. Yep,
right.
They're out of. I'll still be office down in Apple Valley. We're going to help set up Minnesota and Wisconsin for them, but they're
love it.
Out of Salt Lake City, the largest privately held mortgage banker in the United States. They don't do a lot of brokering, which is what a lot of lenders have to do when you get into a 604 FICO. Absolutely. They have to send it to like a hijack lender. We don't have to do that there. They've got product for the consumers. But the big thing that I went to them for is they're really about contribution. They're about giving back. For instance, just a few months ago, they took 150 of their employees on a mission trip to Peru.
Oh, wow.
To do things in Peru. And then every year with their employees, they do things where they find employees that have something that they want to really accomplish in their life, and they make it happen for them. So it's about contribution. It's about giving back, and it's about doing things. And I work with a lot of agents that are with the Keller Williams Systems and other places where they are big on do unto others as you'd have them do unto
Well, and
you.
we've had many of those people as guests on the show, and that whole community narrative woven into the actual business fabric of those organizations is a part of that,
this was
way of doing it.
Yeah, it was a big deal to me. Maybe it's just the philosophy of the company I really like. So I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully, I'm still
Good on
working
you.
for them in a week. I don't, we'll see.
Oh no! Once they catch wind of this show,
Well, actually, Rick and Rich have been listening for a while. Remember I talked about the boys in
that's
Chicago?
right, of course,
Yep.
of course.
But probably the biggest one was the Federal Reserve met again this week,
Yeah, they did.
and it's not what they say; it's how they say it.
Yep.
And this week they basically said the same things they always said, but now it's what they said specifically. In other words, they've been talking about raising interest rates at some time. This time they made a comment, and I don't have it exact, but they alluded to the fact that when they look at raising rates at their next meeting,
When they look at doing it at their next meeting.
which is in the first quarter.
So they really made that sort of clear in that regard.
Now, what's funny about it is that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to do it.
Because they did say when they look at it, yeah.
Right. Because then we've joked
These word
about
choices
we've
very
joked
key,
about
Very key. Very key.
The Federal Reserve will say something just to make the market act or react in a certain way, and if it does, then they don't have to do something later.
Right.
Of course.
Because when you look at corporate profits,
at it.
corporate profits haven't been fantastic. Store sales have not been happy.
Nope.
No, inflation is still low. Job growth is not there. New home sales are okay, but they're not fantastic.
Kind of median, sort of there.
Permits are down. I mean, you look at everything there.
Yeah, new construction,
It's a non-inflationary market, and again, it's like that hole I always talk about. We're in that big 100-foot hole, and we're coming out of it. But we still got a long way to go. And I was joking on Facebook the other day. I said, I got to be honest though, even if wage rates went for 5%, those are freaking good rates.
Yeah.
Still phenomenal
Yeah.
rates.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, 29 years. I mean, the average rate I've seen is 7% or higher. So
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah.
I would have been happy to get 5% on my first house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Isn't that, it's funny to say it because we've had such
We've such a-
phenomenally
exactly.
low rates,
Historic
but,
low rates
Yeah,
that
but you
now
got to
it's-
remember over the course of time and history. I mean, look at where mortgage rates were back in late 70s, early 80s. When a home mortgage rate was 12%.
12%. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, and they've basically fluctuated in about a 0.5% range now for about 3-4 years. Mm-hmm. And at some point, they are going to go up. I mean, there's no doubt. It's like a roller coaster. It goes up, it goes down. But when it's going to happen, we don't know. And we know we joked about the thing from Trading Places with the orange crop and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Nobody really knows what's going to happen. And let's face it, if we did, we wouldn't be sitting here doing this podcast for one. Okay? And the economists that are out there on Wall Street, they'd be doing something much bigger and grander than what they're doing, too. But when they're trading billions and billions of dollars like this, anything positive or negative is going to be a knee jerk for them. It affects their portfolio so big, so the bond traders are going to act and react. And the Federal Reserve, like I said, it's not what they say; it's what they actually do.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, it's not what they do; it's what they say
Is what
more
they
so.
say. And then how, as you said, how they go about saying.
Well, we used to
it.
joke
Yeah.
about Greenspan. When Greenspan used to go into meetings, they would look at his briefcase, and they would say if the paper was a certain way in his briefcase, this is how they expected the meeting to go. And if it was another way, they expected to go this way. And you know what? They were right on.
They were right.
And then they started joking after he got married because he was coming in smiling that hey, Greenspan maybe got a little something last night. It's going to be a good. I'm dead serious.
You know what? And his wife, Andrea Mitchell from NBC News, I'm sure they joke about her in the newsroom the same way. She's the White House correspondent and the whole deal there. Oh, Andrea's smirking more than smiling today. We know what the smirk means.
But the whole briefcase thing with the pieces
That's
of paper.
so funny.
I'll never forget when I heard, and so I started following. I go, my God, they're really onto something here.
this.
And then you start believing it yourself, kind of like the ghost in the basement.
Well, it's more like the Scooby-Doo mystery machine,
Yeah.
Zoinks! I saw the way the papers were in the suitcase.
But let's say nobody knows. Nobody knows. And you know what? As long as rates are where they're at right now, you can't complain. If you haven't bought, if you haven't built, if you haven't refinanced, why haven't you? Get a hold of me.
Just get on it. omsiguy@gmail.com. You can also follow Tom's Twitter handle @omsiguy. But I'm guessing it'll be Tom or Tom Smith or something along those lines at American Mortgage.
No, Academy
Oh,
Mortgage.
excuse me.
Oh, BT.
No, pardon me. I had American written on, not in relation to the mortgage company, in relation to Flip Saunders and what a great American he was. AcademyMortgage.com.
Well, here's a cool part about this. Remember when I went in the military? My dad got mad because I didn't go to college. I didn't go to the academy.
There
I
you
went to
go.
the military.
No,
I'm going to the academy.
Academy
Dad.
Mortgage. All right. I'm glad you called me out because it's the wrong thing.
Hey, it's going to take me a little bit too because they're both start with an A and stuff like that, and I've been saying it for 2 years, and it's going to be hard. I mean, I've had mixed emotions over the whole thing. And American's a great company. MAC's a great company. I mean, they are. But this is just something that I think, with what I've done in my career in the past and where I'm at, it's something I need to do.
Yeah, exactly. Got to move on.
If it doesn't work, I'm going to go beat the crap out of Rick and Rich.
We're going to Chicago by way of La Crosse.
Hey, you know what? Bobby Jensen probably knows a guy.
He always knows a guy. He always knows a guy. Jason, you can reach him, Jason Tetrick. Jason at United Credit Consultants, plural.
Taking Jason, look how big he is.
Yeah. Well, you got to be able to pull that bow back on, when you're deer hunting. So real pleasure to have you here, Jason. Great advice.
Jason,
great
thanks. I really
consultation,
appreciate it,
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me, guys.
It's Mortgages and BS. I'm BT.
I'm Tom.
We will see you next week.